You're listening to Prosper in the Kingdom, the podcast where faith meets practical strategies to help you become healthy, wealthy, and wise. Join hosts John Cleaver and Wendy Lee as they share insights to equip you in your journey toward abundance, spiritually, financially, and beyond. Just a reminder, every situation is unique. The content of this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as specific financial or medical advice.
Good morning, America. We are back. It's Prosper in the Kingdom. I'm your co-host, John Cleaver, with the ever awesome Wendy Lee. Wendy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Good, good. Looks like you're working from a remote location.
I am.
I know you mentioned
Top
you were
secret.
The bunker, the financial bunker, the money bunker. That's what we'll call that. So that's awesome.
I
That's
have
awesome. Well,
my bad camera and a bad mic, so sorry, y'all. It is what
hey,
it
that's
is.
what happens, man. We're in a spiritual war with finances and Christians, so that's okay. Sometimes we got to do what we got to do to get the message out there, so that's okay. But today, folks, just a reminder, Prosper in the Kingdom, we're here to help you and everyday people like you become healthy, wealthy, and wise through practical stewardship, biblical applications, and real-life strategy. So today we're going to talk about something. We're going through this 3M series, and I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. But let's be honest for a second, okay? We're going to talk about stability and what it is and what it isn't, right? A lot of people think, hey, I want to be financially stable, and that's the goal. And it sounds good. It's one of those things that sounds good on paper, but is it actually the goal? And stability isn't the goal. Leverage is. Okay, so I want you to hear me on that. Stability isn't the goal. Leverage is. Okay, so again, going back to my earlier comment, most people grind for years just to get stable, like get their head above water, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm finally there. They pay off their debt, they build an emergency fund, they finally stop, fighting the overdraft fees or, whatever the case may be. And that's what a lot of, I guess the 101 radio gurus talk about. And that's what they're there for, is to get you to a place where you're above water. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you see my little above water kind of thing. It looks like a little Kilroy's here. But when they get there, they can finally breathe, right? And it feels good. It's like, oh my gosh. But here's the real tension of that. Stability feels like success, but it's not the finish line. And so many people think it is. They take their foot off the gas. They think, aha, I've arrived. And that's where you see a lot of people. And, Wendy and I are located in Tennessee. There's a big radio personality that's based out of Tennessee that talks about the 101, kind of the blocking and tackling, which, don't get me wrong, good information, right? I don't agree 100%, but most of it's solid. But it doesn't stop there. And a lot of people think that, okay, that's where I stop, right? And they never take that next level step. So we're going to be talking about today the shift almost nobody makes, okay? And I'm addressing you, middle America. Hey, you're making good money, but is it really doing? Are you really where you thought you should be at this point in your life? If not, listen up. But we're going to show you how to shift from stability to leverage. And if you miss the shift, the time quietly works against you instead of for you. So, that's that most valuable commodity, even more so than money, is time. So, what is the danger of good enough, right? I mean, Wendy, I know we talk to families all the time, with regards to financial planning. Had a conversation yesterday with somebody. They did the basic steps and then kind of, okay, I'm good. And then they start looking at, flash forward 10, 20 years down the road, they're looking at the retirement window going, oh man, and that's what happens when you take your foot off the gas, right?
Yeah. Well, it's taking your foot off the gas and not having that future thinking in the first place, right? You get to a place, of that good enough, and you're like, oh yeah, I feel good, feel
Yeah.
good today. And there's no plan or reality check for the future.
No. And
And
let
then
me
it
give you this.
happens.
Yeah, exactly. Right. The future happens. It just happened. And that's the thing, especially, I'm post 50 and it's like, man, it just seems like it's going faster and faster. But
Yeah.
what happens, and think of it like this. Here's a good analogy for you, right? If you know somebody, or maybe you had a health issue where maybe a little out of shape and had a little chest pain, call the ambulance, they take you in the hospital, you get fixed up. And, okay, now I feel good. They gave me some medicine, I feel good, but it's not fixing the underlying problem of, hey, maybe I need to lose a little weight, stop smoking, or, start exercising, walking a little bit. But because that immediate pressure goes away, all of a sudden the motivation to kind of take that next step and never let this happen again or whatever kind of disappears, right? That pressure disappears, the chaos fades, and you're no longer in survival mode. And that's what happens in your finances as well. Things feel okay. Maybe they're not great, you're not taking all the trips you want to, but they feel okay. And that feels incredible, especially if you're coming out of a situation where you're financially stressed, or my gosh, how am I going to make it to the end of the month? I got kids, with tuition, I got sports, I got, bills are coming in, groceries are going up, all the things, right? Maybe you went through a divorce or something like that. But that comfort quietly turns into drift. And when, you get that solved, and all of a sudden it's like, right. And then you just kind of put it on autopilot. You take your foot off the gas on building true wealth, right? And, there's a good proverb, 21:5, the plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance. And I want you to hear that. The planning, right, leads to abundance. And that's where we want to get to, right? Careful planning brings prosperity. It's not just, think it and manifest it and manna's going to fall from heaven, right? God gives you the opportunities. He puts those in front of you and he wants to bless you, but you've got to pull your own little red wagon, as one of my mentors used to often say. But what happens when you're no longer reacting, you're no longer directing. It is when that chaos happens, the storm goes away, right? Then, it's like, oh, okay, well, we're good. And that's where stagnation sets in. It's almost like a hurricane. I've never been in a hurricane, but I would probably be one of those people that, hey, let's ride out the hurricane, but not a good idea. But that eye of the storm, right? You've gone through chaos and all of a sudden it's calm. You're like, oh my gosh. But if you don't take action and prepare, guess what? You've got other storms on your horizon. And if you've got some seasons behind you, that, right? There's not one market correction. There's typically not one job loss over your career as far as, downsizing or something like that. But, that stagnation, if you don't watch it, you go into autopilot, in that stagnation, and building wealth and legacy just never happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think about those people that I've seen those memes where you get your paycheck and you feel rich, and then at the end of the month you're like, I'm broke. It's
Yeah.
that's on a mini scale of what people do, of what we
Yeah.
do. Our natural tendency
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that we stop pushing once that pressure lifts. And I know we have a lot of entrepreneurs that listen to us, and I think
Hmm.
it's even more prominent in those business owners and self-employed,
Yep.
that emotionally it makes sense, right? We have
Yeah.
more money come in, we get to relax a little bit, we don't feel that pressure. And what happens naturally is, especially if you've lived under that financial stress for a long time, that relief feels like victory, feels like you've won, but that
Mhm.
relief is not the destination, right? It
No.
is the new platform that you get to build wealth upon.
Yeah.
And it's not the stopping point. And I created a YouTube video a while back called, and the title was Stop Stopping, because
I love that.
I was that person. I have been that person. It's something I have to fight constantly to go, okay, just because I'm at a point of relief, I works well under pressure, right? It's like, and I teach the pain versus pleasure principle, that we move quicker when we have pain pushing us than we do when we have desire drawing us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
That's so true.
we have to create that pain, in a sense, to keep pushing us forward sometimes. But understanding that long-term plan and how to create leverage. So that this is the point, that you create leverage when you have that foundation of, okay, things are stable. Now it's time to grow. So in Ecclesiastes 11 through 2, the CJB version of the Bible says, divide your merchandise among 6 or 8 investments. So in the English Standard, it says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8, for you do not know what disaster may come upon the land. And I think back, I just read the story of Joseph, right? And he had the
Yeah,
dream of
yeah,
7 years of abundance and 7 years of famine. And we've got, it's there's over and over in the word, it talks about preparing for
yeah.
the future. And we're
Well,
not supposed, go ahead.
no, and looking at that, and it's funny you brought that verse up, right? Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. So, especially for the entrepreneurs out there, I know you guys are reading Stephen Covey, you're listening to John Maxwell and all the greats, right? Um, and we've heard it. If you've been an entrepreneurship for any length of time, I'm sure you've heard the average millionaire has 7 streams of income, right? I've heard it probably 200 times, right, from different seminars and things like that. Just talking about diversifying your income, multiple streams of income, and that's what I mean. It's biblical. It's right there, right? And that's the first time it's really jumped out to me. So I just wanted to add
Yeah.
that. So
Well, it's biblical, but also, I think I do want to throw this little caveat out there. Sometimes we see people never get to stability because they're
yeah.
focusing on 7 streams of income at one time
Oh
and they
yeah, not a
haven't
good move.
created one that's solid. So
Yeah,
I will say, just a little side note, that if you don't have one solid stream of income, don't try and get all confused and looking every which way. Build
yeah,
something stable. And then when you have stability, you can create, or, if you have a full time job, I'm always about a side hustle. So 2 streams
hmm
of income, right? But one of them
yeah,
shouldn't take a ton of brain power. And then
no,
as you increase your net worth, as you increase your cash flow and all of that, then you have the ability to create other revenue streams without all the stress, right?
yeah,
So because you can
yeah.
leverage
That's a great
people
point.
as well. So, but
Yeah, I'm
once
glad
that
you brought that up.
stability
That's
is
a great point.
established, yeah, you're welcome. But once that stability is established, then you need that multiplication, right? We talk make, manage, multiply. That multiplication starts to accelerate more intentionally. And so, and if we don't do that, if we don't start putting more money away, if we don't start investing more, then what happens is that lifestyle creep comes in. We're like, I have all this money sitting there, right? I want to spend it. Or and if we don't have a plan, and I know you're going to talk more about that in a minute, but if we don't have a
hmm
plan, that lifestyle creep starts to take away the margin that you've created, and then you're back to that position of stressed and pressure, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that unassigned money that we have always finds somewhere to go.
Yep, yep. And some people, it's like, did somebody say boat? It's like, and we do that all the time. Especially if you're working hard, and it's like, okay, I want to reward myself. But the reality is, unless you've got, your debts are paid off, you're right. You've got your war chest. We talked about what that is, especially for you entrepreneurs out there, realtors. You've got your war chest, kind of behind you, protecting you, and things like that. You're kind of you're not there yet. It may feel like, and you've won that battle, but you haven't won the war. Okay, to use that kind of analogy. But what does leverage actually look like? So let's talk about that for a minute. First of all, leverage isn't hype; it's structure with direction. Okay, so what does it look like? If you're taking notes, write this down. But first of all, margin is intentionally deployed, right? So margin, we've talked about that as well. That's cash flow coming in, cash flow going out. And then if you've got money left over, which you should, right? If you're doing this properly, that's margin. Well, you don't just leave that margin there to kind of like, oh my gosh, I've got all this extra money left over. Let's go spend it, right? So you've intentionally deployed it. You've assigned a percentage, hopefully a large percentage, towards building wealth or building income streams, building, assets that create income streams, things like that. So that's the first one. Extra margin is intentionally deployed. Okay. And that's where a spending plan comes in, folks. Debt eliminated to free future income. You look at debt, and a lot of people, it's so easy to swipe that card, and they're making it easier and easier for you. You don't have to swipe anymore. You just tap it. But you don't have to do that. Just hold up your phone. Right. So that's the whole point. Banks are trying to figure out a way to get your money out of your pocket, sometimes before you even have it. That's why you have a credit card debt, and if you don't pay it off. So eliminating that debt, whether it's loans, credit cards, that's obviously a big one here in the United States. you got to get rid of that to eliminate or to free up future income so you can turn around and invest and buy assets and things like that. You want your assets compounding. We've talked to clients that because of fear, they have their money sitting in the bank, right? I don't want to lose it, especially, coming out of a divorce. You're going from a double income to a single income. It's kind of scary, unknown territory. So it's like, oh my gosh, I want my money whoopee, right? I just want it there so I can see it, hold it, and everything else. But that money isn't working for you. It's just laying there, losing buying power actually because of inflation. So you want your assets compounding, your money making money, right? And risk structured properly. I get so frustrated when I see people that, lose money. We just had a little bit of a market correction a couple of years ago. '08, the S&P went down almost 40% in 1 year. It wasn't even a year, but that year it ended up net 40% down. So when you look at that, people are told, oh, hey, don't worry about it. You'll get your money back. And you do, but you'll lose the time, right? And Warren Buffett, his number one rule was don't lose money in investments. Rule number two is see rule number one, right? So how do you do that? There are tons of ways that you can create growth with no risk and things like that, or eliminate risk and still get good growth. The traditional approach has always been, well, we'll put it in low risk, funds or whatever the case may be. Well, low risk typically means low rewards, but that's not what the wealthy are doing, right? So again, risk structured properly and time working for you. I can have the exact same conversation with somebody who's getting started at 40 and somebody who's ahead of the game. I had a conversation this week, great young guy, 22 years old. 22 years old, and he's already got some things going on, but he's like, I don't just want to try to figure it out on my own on the internet. So he met through one of our reps, introduced him to me. So we sat down and built out a plan. And this guy's going to be set if he follows this plan with a little bit of money. Why? Because he's got so much time, right? Get that time working for you. So, Psalm 112:3, wealth and riches are in his house and his righteousness endures forever. Notice what that scripture never condemns. Wealth built with righteousness, meaning built with a plan. Okay. So wealth isn't an issue. Wealth is not a negative in God's eyes, right? The get rich quick schemes, the chaos and everything else, that's not, and then obviously, treating wealth as your God rather than your instrument to help the kingdom, to help your family. And I'm not talking your immediate family, I'm talking your extended family. That's where it starts getting, bad if you start putting that as a God, right? But building out that plan and having a plan, following biblical guidance, right? And just being consistent and realizing that, hey, this is a marathon. This is not a sprint, right? And the issue isn't growth, it's disorder. So many people just try to wing it. Rarely do I talk to somebody who actually has a spending plan or a budget and is using it properly. They're keeping track of some stuff, but it's not really how it's intended. We have a class that we teach on how to actually do that properly. But you've got to realize when all three of those, that make, manage, and multiply that we talk, make, that creates the margin, right? We talk to you, show you how to do that. If you're a business owner, we show you how to bring in other streams of income in your existing business. If you're, a family or an individual, we show you how to look at other opportunities, right? We've had a couple of those conversations this week. And then managing that money properly creates that stability. And now multiply now increases the weight, okay, as far as what you're able to do. And all three, again, operate concurrently at the same time, not a one step, 5 years later, I'm doing a second step. No. We show you how to do it in budget, all three at the same time to do what? To leverage and maximize the time you have available. Once you're stable, that multiply, it becomes intentional. It almost becomes like a game, right? And it's so much fun, and it gives you the more and more confidence, more and more clarity, and that's going to put you and your family in a better situation.
Yeah, and so I want to share just 4 moves that you can make that if you are in that stability phase right now, to intentionally move towards that leverage, right? So the first is, that margin we're talking about with the difference between what you're earning and what's going out the door. Assign your margin to building your wealth before your lifestyle consumes it, right? And before
It,
you say, "Oh, I need a nicer
it
car,"
happens
or
quick. It
it
happens
does happen
quick.
quick. I mean, some people, they have a commission come in or a raise come in, they spend the money before it even hits their bank account.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Hey, I've done that
so
in the past. I'm guilty.
I
Not
have
now,
too.
but
And then I
so
learned, don't count your chickens before they hatch. Um,
yes.
but assign that more margin first, right? Say when that comes in or when I get those increases, I'm going to put more towards the wealth building, or second,
Yeah.
eliminate one thing that's like a remaining drag. So debt, if you don't have all the debt paid off, you can assign some of that, increase in margin to
Mhm.
eliminating something else. Looking at where it's always, you can cut debt or you can cut memberships or subscriptions. What do you really need $200 worth of streaming services on your TV? Do you really?
Yeah.
I mean, come on,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
I mean, I cut everything. I have Amazon Prime. I cut everything else because one, we don't watch that much. And two, there's plenty to find on Amazon Prime. I mean, how bored can we be that we
Hmm.
that we can't find things, right? So, and then the third one is increase those long-term investments gradually and consistently. So we don't want to, your client you were talking about, 20 something years old, starting to put money away.
Yeah.
Well, when 10 years from now, hopefully he does take a look at that and put more away, right? And then 10 years later, look at it again and put some more away. We want to continually increase. Honestly, my personal goal, and not that this has to be anyone else's, but my personal goal is that I only keep half of what I make and
Yeah.
that the other half is giving and investing.
Yeah.
So, um, but so look at, where can you increase those long-term investments, whether that's more in the protected asset classes we talk about, whether that's investing in another business that you can grow and turn around, whatever that is. And
Hmm.
then fourth is going to be, you know, audit protection, income protection, estate clarity, tax efficiency. Really, you need to create your money team. And John and I did a
Yeah.
video on this a while back. You can go to our YouTube channel and type in money team to search for it. But you want to build your money team. Sometimes it's called, right, a fractional family office. You want to have your people around you that
Hmm.
all are in communication, helping you create the best financial picture. And I even think about the Bible. I'm reading through the entire Bible this year, but in reading the Old Testament, I mean, they had managers of
Hmm.
different areas of their life to work together. These wealthy people in the Bible didn't do it all on their own, and these blessed people of the Bible didn't do it on their own. They had a huge team of people helping them put these things in place. So for you, right, listening to this, if you have your tax person, right? Your tax advisor, your bookkeeper. You want to have your people to help you with investments, whether that's real estate, maybe a real estate
Hmm.
investment professional, somebody to help you with wealth planning like we do. You want to have those people around you. So,
Yeah.
Luke 14:28 says, "For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first sit down and count the cost?"
Yeah.
We have to look at what it takes to build the life you want to build, and it's not just about the life you want to build. It's, I know for me, and I know for John, we want to start giving abundantly through nonprofit work. Well, for us to get there, where money's not an issue in day-to-day life at all, and that we can just give and serve, we have to calculate what that looks like to get there. And who are the
Hmm.
people? We got to leverage the time, we got to leverage the money, we got to leverage the people to build that. And leverage requires calculation. It's not about emotion or hype, it's about numbers. It's about calculation. And of
Yep.
course, involving the Lord in your planning always. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, and that is it's great information in all solid points. And that's one of the things too. So many entrepreneurs, so many individuals just kind of wing it, and then they're scratching their head going, why didn't that work out? And what happens, again, going back to what I said at the beginning of this, God gives you the opportunities to be blessed, to succeed, both personally, financially, physically, and everything else. It's what you do with that opportunity that's going to create results. You are a result of your decisions and actions. Where you're at now is a result of your decisions and actions up to this point. But that doesn't mean you have to stay there, right? And ask yourself this: if nothing changes financially over the next 3 years, okay, if you're looking down the road, 3 years from now, nothing changes. Are you satisfied with that trajectory? Right. And some of you may be, hey, I've got it locked in. Okay. That's not the vast majority of us. Right. So, and again, not in your comfort. I'm not saying you're comfortable. I'm not saying good enough. Your trajectory, right? Are you headed in the right direction? Are you in an upward bound trajectory? And, if not, make some changes, right? Now is the time, not next week, not when the timing's perfect. Now start with what you've got, right? And that stability, just a reminder, that stability is earned. Leverage is chosen. Okay. Leverage is chosen. Stability is earned. I paid off my bills. Okay. My head's above water. I just want to chill now. No, you can't do that, because the next wave that comes in, it may flip you over, whatever the case may be. So that leverage, you start getting in a situation where you're leveraging all these different strategies to make, manage, and multiply. That's where it's a game changer for you in a positive way, right? So if you want clarity on whether your system is positioned for leverage and, not just maintenance, start with a safe money roadmap. If you're working with somebody, sit down with them, a financial advisor, sit down with them and ask them the question, hey, what can I do to level up, right? If you don't have one, we'd love to help you out. Mention the show. We'll give you a free financial plan. Do something with it or not. That's up to you. Simply go to Safe Money Roadmap. We'll put that in the show notes as well. But safemoneyroadmap.com and get your free plan. But let's move from surviving. Let's move from good enough to start building legacy wealth. So again, I'm John C. With the ever awesome Wendy Lee. Do us a favor. Give us a little like, subscribe, share this on your social if you got some value out of it. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback on, the good ideas, the things that you're questioning, or, if you need help or whatever. Obviously, you have the Safe Money Roadmap, but show a little love and go ahead and click that subscribe button, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or whatever on the podcast, or check out our YouTube channel. And with that, we'll see you next week on another Prospering the Kingdom. And I hope you have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to Prosper in the Kingdom. If this episode added value to your day, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to share it with someone who could use the encouragement. For more resources, head to prosperinthekingdom.com. Let's continue building lives of purpose and abundance, one step at a time.